out on this absolutely spectacular morning. It's fun for me to stand up here and see a crowd this big, because this has always been my dream with these things, that we would grow it, and the last 3 or 4 have grown. I think we have probably a unique guest today, somebody that I think most of you know. I heard a little heckling as I had people walk by Charles, so I think he realizes he may have a tougher crowd than he usually does. Trying to explain to him that this is pretty easy going. What that really means is there's possibly a little less respect than you're used to. So, but be kind to him. He has been downtown for over 50 years, and he is going to tell you about his experiences and just his times in downtown Rochester since, I believe, about 51, 52. And I give you Charles Pappas.
Well, when Jane Campion asked me to speak to this group, I was a little nervous for a couple of reasons. I go back, my remarks deal with 5 decades. Actually, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the 6th decade we're in now, downtown on Broadway. But when I was asked to do this a couple of years ago to a service club, I just, my memory just sat down and started putting this together. I didn't go to any resources. I didn't look up anything, try to find out what it was, remind me of the 50s or 60s. So this is all out of my head, and I want to qualify it right now. And as a disclaimer, you people obviously are history buffs. And I might have a few mistakes in my decades, and even some of my remarks about what happened in certain decades. And you'll have to forgive me for that, because at my age, when I did this a couple of years ago, put this together, my memory was getting a little foggy too. So anyway, my remarks are going to be over my decades in downtown and Broadway. They're going to concern 3 things: the changes of downtown, the changes in Michael's restaurant, and a little extra flavor. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the celebrities that I've met over the years. Before I got this group here, and many of you have had a lot to do with the success of Michael's, and I know you got all kinds of free time on your hands. I just want to greet you from the staff at Michael's, and you know where we are. We're downtown on Broadway. We've been open since '51. We serve good food and beverage. Phone number is 288-2120. Today's luncheon special: steak, salmon, and flounder and crab stuffing. You're gonna have a lot of time to get down there after I get through. Look forward to seeing you. As an introduction, my brothers, I had 3 older brothers, they're all deceased now. We decided we were in the restaurant business in 1946, east of town and over in Manorville. We decided we wanted to come downtown Rochester. So in 1951 we got together and decided to go into business together, the 4 of us brothers. And we also had 4 wives at the time. We all met with my father and my mother, and we decided to do it. And my father at that time said, being from Greece and going through a tough time, the Depression, losing 2 restaurants, his home, etc., in Worthington, Minnesota, in his Greek, good old Greek philosophy type of remark, if you boys stick together, you'll never starve. And as it turned out, my 3 brothers are deceased, but they lived quite well, and they didn't die from starvation. Dad was right. We did. We had a good life together. I was in business 120 years accumulatively with my 3 brothers, and that's a lot of time to spend with family members in business. And we decided to get together and run this restaurant, open it up, and we did in 1951. We picked our location at that time, Rochester. That location was not necessarily considered a good location, but downtown at that location, we thought there was Penny's, Montgomery Ward, and Sears across the street, Mayo Clinic right behind us, and the 3 major hotels, the Kaler, the Zumbo, and the Carlton, right by us. And we had a department store called Knowlton's, which was quite a department store in those days, so we thought it was a good location. And as it turned out, it was a good location. And that's where we got started at Michael's in 1951. Now, the changes, I might just add that many of you have, just to give an idea, comparisons. If you came into Michael's a year ago today and ordered a filet mignon, you'd get soup, salad, potato, vegetable, coffee, and dessert was $3.60. The same thing tonight that would cost you $29.53, with a couple dollars that being sales tax. Now, if you wanted to really have some fun, you want to add a martini and a shrimp cocktail, maybe one glass of wine, back then it would cost you $5.15. Now it costs you $47.55 for the same meal. So you can see how things have changed. Add lobster tail would cost you $6.65 54 years ago, 53 years ago, and it would cost you $63.60 last night. So you can see how things have changed as far as menu pricing goes. It's amazing. 600, 700% increase in 51 years, and you wonder how that can happen. But it just happens, and we all know what great progress this country's made. The 1950s, I think, were the best decade of all. Maybe it's because I was young then and had more energy, I don't know, but the 1960s and 50s were a great decade. It was a rather quiet decade. There wasn't much going on. The Korean War was the only thing that really happened in that decade. Otherwise, it's pretty stable years, the Eisenhower years. I don't remember raising menu prices or anything like that. Just a nice, stable time in the country. And Broadway was bright and active. At Christmas time, we draped broken across Broadway and lighted, and all the storefronts had decorations. You walk right into the store in the summertime, the awnings were out. It was great camaraderie in downtown. Stores open until 9 o'clock from Thanksgiving until Christmas Eve day. Everybody just seemed to know everybody, and everybody just had a wonderful time. Most of the storefronts were 22 feet wide is all. You could walk right in or look in before you went in, and the sidewalk traffic was nice and active. And one thing I noticed in putting these remarks together, which I never noticed before, and maybe it's mentioned by George Margolis, somebody, but there were 11 Greek businesses on Broadway, Greek immigrants between Center Street and 4th Street South. There was Shapus, Kyriakis, Anton, which probably was Antonopoulos, Cases, Thomas, Drosas, Pappas, Theros, Shafolius, Margolis, two Margolises, all Greek immigrants, all about the same generation, and ended up in Rochester, Minnesota on Broadway in a 4-block area. And I never really paid attention. I think it's just absolutely remarkable. Now, just recently, there was one Greek, Shafolius, he owned it all, but before that, anyway, I just was sort of thought that was a significant thing. Then we had bars, they had restaurants, they had shoe repair, hat blocking, liquor stores, hotels, pool halls, cafes, all various types of businesses. And now they're all gone, really, and except we're still around. But then also in those days, there was no, as far as the restaurants go, people ate later and drank later, and drank more too, probably. Steak and martini were without question the thing. Minnesota had practically no brandy or vodka sales at all. Wisconsin had pretty good brandy sales, but they just weren't even being drunk in Minnesota. It was gin and martini and bourbon, and generally speaking, steaks. The dress code was, at Michael's, of course, I was dress up. It'd be rare anyone would come in without a tie or suit on. I just don't recall. I remember one incident, maybe in the 60s, but someone came in once in a very casual dress, and a friend of mine was sitting eating, and he called me to the table and said, "You just got to start putting some restrictions on the dress code, and that's just terrible." So, but people did dress up. Ladies wore high heels and nice-looking legs and skirts, and it was just really different. The dress code and the eating habits were very different. Menu prices were very reasonable, as you can see, and things started happening downtown. The Mayo Clinic was talking about and got involved with the Mayo building, the Cato Hotel, built on a addition. Dayton's was coming downtown, and things were on the upbeat in the 50s, and really looked good for downtown. We made 2 expansions in the 50s, one in 56 and one in 59. We increased the size of our restaurant. We get into the 60s, and things started going downhill a little bit later in the 60s. So we started losing, Miracle Mile opened up, and then Crossroads. And we started seeing exodus from downtown. Strip malls were starting to happen, and eventually during that period, enclosed mall, Apache started getting developed. Wards left, Sears left first to go to Crossroads, and Wards left, and then Penny's left. And things were not going too good, and things started falling apart late 60s, and we got involved in a big urban renewal debate in town, and was put to a vote and was defeated. And bread and meat started getting challenged by the medical community, and fish started coming to the forefront a little bit. And we started introducing fresh fish on our menu. I remember particularly pompano and snapper from Florida. And it was just a problem that people just weren't buying in enough quantity to keep the fish fresh. Logistically, it was a problem getting it into the restaurant, sometimes 2.5 days. It would take if you ran into a snowstorm or something, Northwest Airlines or whatever. And it was a problem, but we added fresh fish, and it didn't go very well, and it sort of fizzled a little bit. Then we got to a more varied menu. We had to get away from the steaks regardless. Excuse me. So we added things like duck and pheasant, new Greek dishes, and we tried to change our mind a little bit to get off the meat thing. Leisure suits are starting to get popular now, and we all know what they were like. And we were still pretty well dressed up though, coming into dining. The early 70s, Dayton's left, and that was a real blow to downtown. And now we were in trouble. We debated about a year to leave downtown. We had a site picked out over near Apache, and we had a site picked out near where Bartles is now, and could make up our mind what to do. And we were very discouraged about the future downtown, but we decided to stay. And we doubled the size of our restaurant, and it proved to be a good decision at that time. And we were down at the city council formed a development advisory committee and hired a development director. And we started working on trying to improve the downtown, and all through the 70s, various things were done. The first wave of immigrants came in our industry. The Asians started coming in the 70s. And they proved to be excellent, thank you, I appreciate that. They proved to be a real shot in the arm. The trouble is, most of them are too industrious and too ambitious and too intelligent to stay in our industry very long, entry-level jobs. As soon as they managed to assimilate into society with their language, English, they left for a bit better jobs, but they were quite a help in our industry with entry-level jobs. And ethnic food started showing up a little bit more throughout the area. I failed to mention in 1962 or 1960s, we decided, just as a fellow came through Rochester and tried to sell me some oil paintings, and referred to a restaurant in Baltimore called Hobner's, which had oil paintings even on the ceiling, and thought it might be a bad idea. And he's from New York, and he got us involved in oil paintings, which we've done ever since. And I don't know, I think, I don't keep that exact record, but I suppose we've sold thousands of oil paintings all over, even New York, Mexico, Canada, off our wall. And that has been a sort of a fun thing to do. So, and then back to the 70s, we started getting more sport coats, and I fuzzy on this. I'm not sure. I think the ladies got into pantsuits a little bit at that time. But I know the high heels were fading out, and the nice skirts were fading out. And it gets just a little more casual with sport coats. Some of the celebrity things we had in the 70s, I think it was Hemingway was in town, and he was known to go around to bars pretty frequently, and we hadn't seen him. And one night, came out and said to me, Charlie, I think Ernest Hemingway's in the bar. And when there's a fellow with a beard and all this and that, looked like Hemingway, and so I asked him if we could take his picture, and he said, well, I'm not Hemingway. Come on, Ernie, no, I'm not. Well, we kind of, well, okay, so we took his picture, and a short time after that, one of the doctors at the Mayo Clinic was in, and I hadn't posted the picture on the wall yet, but that's not Hemingway, so. the guy was truthful. And others who had said, celebrities a little bit, when Chet Huntley was in town speaking to some IBM group, he and his wife were in the dining on a Saturday night, and next to them, an elderly couple from Illinois, had been frequent customers of Michael's, plenty of customers. The lady flopped over, and actually she died. And you couldn't get out of the dining room. I was stepping over one part of the dining room, so I stepped over. So I knew there was a doctor in the house, and a young doctor, and he came over and he verified the fact that the lady had deceased, and said, "You got to call the coroner." Well, Dr. Wallner was the coroner, and he was at a wrestling match where one of his kids at a wrestling match with John Marshall. It took us 45 minutes to get Wallner to come. And the poor lady laid there. The husband in a chair alongside him. He was sort of, his first response was give her a shot of brandy, well, of course. He did this before, apparently. So Wellner finally arrived, Doc Wellner, and then a hearse came, and we finally got her out. But at that time, I told my brothers, if this happens again, we're going to just drag him right out the kitchen. And then we'll call the coroner. We're going to get him out of the dining room. It was really embarrassing. And a little aside to that, Hummy and his wife were just absolutely the most gracious anybody could be. She was consoling the husband, and they were so nice about it all. But that was one that we didn't, I hope that incident, we haven't had a death since then, so we must be doing something right. Now again, in the 1980s, there's two words in the 1980s, cranes downtown. There were 7 cranes downtown, and noodles, as we called it on our menu before 1980, and that later became linguine, fettuccine, bow tie, angel, but it's still noodles, and that started to get real popular pasta. And the first chain came downtown, Red Lobster, which surprised all of us. We were surprised they picked the location because the parking was really a problem and that location, and we were surprised that they would come downtown. And frankly, I'm still surprised they're still there. The chains just don't come downtown. I'll get to that later. But anyway, that was the first chain. Redevelopment, Gus Shabulis, of course, and we had a lot of redevelopment projects presented to us from different areas of the state, of the U.S. Gus Shabulis finally prevailed, and we got what now, many years later, is turned out to be somewhat of a problem. But at the time, it was a good project, and it took us into the 90s in a wonderful way for all of us. A lot of Minneapolis restaurants came to the town in the 80s and in that general area, and they just misread our labor market terribly. They Alfredo's, Tinklers, Esteban's, Eddie Webster, Le Bistro, Riverside Gardens, Depot House, they all came to Rochester and they all failed. Eddie Webster left because of the fire and he didn't want to come back. But the Minneapolis market came downtown, and just I think it was price structure amongst other things. It just didn't work, and they all left. I couldn't think of one in that era that came downtown that was successful. Another thing, we started losing the name House and Rooms. You know, gone was the Penthouse, the Hoffman House, the White House, the Depot House, and the Connell Room, and Hemisphere Room. All of these things, the rooms and houses didn't popular anymore. Chain names or just other names. The biggest impact on business, I think, in that was gambling, casinos, which really, I think, took a lot of entertainment dollars out of the town. And patient days started shortening dramatically. The Mayo Clinic, I think, used to be average patient stay was 4 days maybe. Now, if you were smart, you could come in and pass the night before and see your internist, have your test, and get out in maybe 36, 48 hours. And then the lodges started having a peripheral of downtown and shuttling back and forth to the Mayo Clinic, so people wouldn't get back downtown at night. That all started happening at that time also, which all affected us. All of that affected downtown activity at night. 1990s were pretty much good years. Believe it or not, steak and martini started coming back, and quite rapidly. But vodka martini, not gin, and brandy. Vodka and brandy just overwhelmed bourbon and gin as popular liqueurs, spirits to drink. Drinking awareness became much more so. A place like Michael's, the drinking late at night just dropped off. People just didn't, we didn't have to worry about getting people out of the bars at 12, 1 o'clock at night. It just dropped off. People started eating earlier and started getting back into fresh fish again. The fish logistics improved dramatically, and right now we get fish FedEx at just 20. We order today, we get it tomorrow FedEx and fresh fish, and we get it from Alaska, wherever it comes from. And so fish started coming on stronger, and even though steak and martinis started coming back quite a bit, food to go started becoming very much of a sales potential for restaurants. More people were working and ordering food to go and at night at home, and we belong to Waiter Express, but we also I would think we probably send about as much food out our front door as we do it through Waiter Express. Food to go is a big factor. On the other hand, supermarkets started becoming a bigger challenge. You could start buying filet mignon and tenderloin and prime tenderloin and fresh fish and delis and things at supermarkets you couldn't buy. You could go to the supermarket and sit down and eat in many cases. Supermarkets were getting to be a stronger challenge. We like to be at least 60-40 food away from home being restaurants, 40%, food at home being supermarkets, 60%. And we've held that ratio pretty good. But the supermarkets have challenged restaurants with a lot of selection you couldn't get years ago. The dress code, now we're down to ties, no ties, sport shirts with no ties and pantsuits in the early 90s. And then we get into sweaters big time, the later 90s, and very casual dress code. The downtown is becoming more of a company downtown, Mayo Clinic downtown. The Mayo Clinic, and this is a positive, not a negative, but the Mayo Clinic started assuming a lot of properties, the Woolworth building, the old Weber and Judd building, the old Norwest Bank building, the old Dayton building, the old Massey building. The Mayo Clinic started moving into all these locations, which sort of broke up the block and sort of prevented any little retail commerce coming in. But the reason why, and the people who own these buildings tried to get other things in, but they couldn't. So the Mayo Clinic was a savior in that factor. It was a good thing. But it became a come downtown, which means a lot of people working, a lot of people getting done at 5 o'clock and going, which resulted in nights, Monday through Thursday in particular, being dead. Many of the retailers will not stay open at night. Some stay open until 8 o'clock, like Hanny's, till 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 8:30, and on Sundays for a few hours. Others won't stay open at night at all. I think the OMB stays open 2 nights. Of course, the Kayla Arcade, all that area, all closes much earlier. There's no continuity on store hours or anything, so the nights are dead. And what I think started happening in the 90s is that the downtown is becoming a daytime downtown. Now things are being done now. I'm related to try to overcome that, but it has become a company downtown. The big thing that happened labor-wise in the 90s is the Hispanic labor, the Mexican, if you will, Latino, whatever you want to call them. There are a lot of us in downtown, or probably in Rochester, that would not be open now if it wasn't for the Mexican immigrant. We have about 25 at Michael's, and they are gracious, clean people. We have had one problem with one of them, period. They're pleasant. They show up for work. They do task jobs because many of them don't speak English. Those that speak English have better jobs at Michael's. They can get the cooking, bartending. We even asked to use them at Mater D. But most of them don't want to assimilate in our society, I don't think, because they don't want to learn English, and that's too bad. Where the Asians, and even I miss mention in the 80s, we had a lot of Bosnians working for us. We had 10 or 11 at one time. Boy, they really assimilated fast, and they were gone and much better jobs and in a hurry. But the Latinos seem to just want to work hours and send 20, 40 bucks home a week to Mexico, and I think have a hope to go back to Mexico sometime. I think it's a problem from that standpoint. From the standpoint of entry-level jobs and middle-level jobs, they have been a savior to our restaurant, and I'm sure a lot of other restaurants. So the immigrants were very, very important in the 90s. A couple of things in the 90s that, getting back to a little bit of the celebrities, a friend of mine that owns Featherlight Trailers called one night and said, one day, I'd like a party room tomorrow night. Dale Earnhardt's going to do advertising for us on TV, and we're going to be there, 20 of us, and I said, okay, fine, and so we booked him in the party room. Came out of the party room the night and said, do you want to take a picture with him? I said, who, is it Dale Earnhardt? Well, I don't know, fine. Who is he? And he told me his background, so we took it. As we had pictures, we're going closer to the men's room, the ladies' room, which was the side door. And he was way down around by the men's room, and of course, he was killed. And I couldn't believe it on the TV and the newspapers, the amount of coverage that death got. So one Sunday, I took a picture down around the bathroom, brought it right around, went right in the middle when you first walked in so everybody could see it. What a man. John Elway was in one night, right after after he retired, had his wife here at the clinic, and really nice guy, all by himself, and ate dinner, and he left a pen on the table with John Elway on it, and of course the server thought, well, that's nice, and came in the next night to eat, and he wanted to know if anybody found his pen. So we had to go get it back from the server and give it back to him. That was sort of unusual because I thought he might, I left it as a souvenir. Now, how about I've been in business since 1946 in Rochester, in the restaurant business. I didn't talk about the last late 40s, and I talked about 5 decades downtown. Now we're almost four years into this decade. So I made a few notes and some things that I think are bothering. I want to qualify this a little bit by saying there is a committee formed. The city has hired a consultant, and which we've had many of over the years that we've been in business. And his objective is to define what Rochester's niche is in the greater Rochester area. And are we there now? And we are, so be it. We've got to struggle with it. Can we do this to improve it or what? And his report will be done in July. I'm impressed with the guy's presentations, but I'm not sure what the results will be. Right now, I think there's a lot of ominous signs for downtown. Monday through Thursday nights, it's like a morgue downtown. In Broadway itself, except for a little bit of lights in front of the Radisson and the Hilton, the Red Lobster and Michael's, the 4 block area. It's just, all the lights are shut off, closed down, all the buildings. There's no activity nothing to have any kind of spirit downtown at all. The shuttle buses from all the motels on the edge of town, all running, most of them on the hour at least, back and forth to the drop off the Uganda building. So people are staying out of downtown. They have a long day at the clinic, get shuttle home at 4, 5, 6 o'clock. Why get in the car and come back downtown? And Northwest Rochester's grown so, and South Rochester's grown so. There's plenty of food out there. Most of them are in town primarily for medical reasons. They're not too concerned about having an excellent meal. They want good food and value, but they don't come back downtown. They just don't get in the car and come back downtown. And they've got many options to eat at both areas of the downtown. The clinic where there's satellites, now in Northeast Rochester, those people probably would have come downtown, local people would come downtown to dermatology or this or there or whatever they want done. They might have eaten a lunch at Michael's. They might have gone over to see about a pair of shoes or go to the gallery and bought some tennis shoes or something. It just, every little bit hurts. Now Northeast Rochester has the clinic. I cite this little example that about 4 or 5 months ago, I wanted to go to dermatology for a very minor thing. And I know quite a few dermatologists, and usually I make my own appointments at the clinic. And I usually call the secretary and I say, how busy is so-and-so? I hope the person, well, he's you know, about a month behind me or something. I said, forget it. So on this dermatology, I called the one doctor's secretary and said, well, I'm sure you'll see if you want to, but he is, you know, he's got scheduled pretty hard for the next couple of weeks, whatever. Have you ever thought about going out to Northwest Clinic? Like, what do you mean? Well, you call at 8 o'clock in the morning for a same-day appointment. So the next morning I got up and called at 8 o'clock, got an appointment for 3:20, went out and had the thing done, and came back downtown. Well, that's just great, you know, for everybody except the people downtown trying to snare a meal or a pair of shoes. That's another problem. Barnes Noble. What a nice operation that turned out to be, and Gusher Wells should be given a big pat on the back for that. However, if you've been to the new store out at Apache, and you know it siphons off from Barnes Noble downtown. And I'm sure Gus just sold the building because he doesn't want to be around when maybe they decide to close the store downtown. Gap, another situation. They went out to Apache. They were out there about a year. Gap closed downtown. It's just, these kind of things are just a problem. Merrill Lynch just built a new building out in Circle Drive out west. They have, I think he told me, 18 employees. They're gone from downtown. The West Digital building, 850 employees, meal night. Maybe 25 would have lunch at one of our restaurants downtown at noon. Now the Celestica building, the same thing. Now some things are going to come downtown, I know, and I'm not picking on the clinic. I know their problem on parking and everything else. I worry about the day this 45 acres they bought out northwest Rochester. I won't be around, where they really get efficient and empty out all these buildings downtown they're renting, and move everybody out to the administrative people. That'll happen someday. In fact, I posed a question to them. And you know, it's just the future. There's nothing I can see right now that's bright for downtown at night. Now, daytime will probably be okay. The auditorium activity, when something's going on there, it's tremendous. You know, if they had 2 or 3 major functions there a month, all 3 restaurants downtown, it would be just a boondoggle for us, no question about it. But that doesn't happen. You know, they might have, you know, they don't have any entertainment anymore that they used to have, which would draw big crowds, very seldom. The auditorium is busy with things that don't generate basketball games and high school basketball and wrestling and this and that. It doesn't bring in the traffic downtown that you want. The future of Michael's. Well, let me say that, who knows? People say to me, the 2 most frequent questions I get asked or comment about is when they come in, are you still here? And the other is, are you going to retire? And, you know, about retiring, I was thinking, Senator is coming in this morning, if the best I can do in retirement is to come and listen to me speak, I don't want to retire. But Michael's can't last forever. We know that. The buildings are old, it's falling apart, every time we turn around, our repair maintenance are high, and with business, who knows? It's not immortal, and right now, we owe a debt to the community, all of you people, all of you have a very, very strong investment in Michael's over the years. And we've been very fortunate, we know that. For goodness sakes, when you're in business for 53 years in October, in the same location, the same family, you've got to count your blessings. And so downtown has been very, very, very good to us, and Rochester has been very, very good to us, and we plan on being around. I plan on being around as long as I can remember half your names, but it's difficult. Anyway, it's been a wonderful time. It's just a great business to be in. The amount of employees I've met, the amount of salespeople, the amount of customers, it's just been great. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. When I decided to go into business instead of going to college when I got out of service back in '46, I never second guessed it. I did get a college education, but really wasn't easy. But I finally got it done. But being in business, but I'm glad I made the decision. It's a unique city to be in business. You meet so many people. It's a unique business to be in. We just hired our server yesterday. A boy, I expect he's 26, 27, and I heard his last name. And I said, was Everett your grandfather? Yep. Is Bob your father? Yep. I've had many cases where 3, even some 4 generations that I've gotten to know at Michael's over the years. It's tough hours in the restaurant business, and you got to have a supportive family. And my wife, of course, was the one that sat down for dinner every night as I walked out about 5 o'clock with our kids. Employees are a higher caliber now than they've ever been. It used to be a tough business. When the dishwasher got his check on payday, you knew he was going to be gone the next day. He'd go on, he was drunk. The caliber of employee has just increased so much, as has the benefits that the restaurants now do for their employees, and the working conditions, lighting, air conditioning, things like that in the kitchen. It's changed so much over the years. It's a great it's a great business, and it has great chance for error. When you buy the product, you got to give it your buy. It's got to be the right quality. When you portion it, you got to portion it right. When you cook it, you got to cook it right. When you serve it, you got to serve it right. There's so many steps that if somebody messes up a little bit, you've blown it. Nothing will. We get quite a few complaints on the amount of people we service. Not unusual. And we take care of right at the restaurant. But a complaint that leaves the restaurant and then writes me a letter. Well, I suppose we get about 1 letter in every 25, 30,000 meals. And but that 1 letter can just, I'll toss in bed for a night or 2 on the letter. And we don't answer letters with letters anymore. We answer letters with a phone call. We call right back and thank them for calling for the letter and taking time to write it, so forth and so on. And we do make mistakes. It's a great, we're so vulnerable, so many errors along the way, and it's a tough business from that standpoint. The future of the independent, like Michael's, belongs, all this downtown are independents pretty much, except Red Lobster, Brothers Bar, and Wong's, and Michael's, Broad Street, and Chardonnay, and the Victorias, and Pilates, and City Cafe. I'm probably missing some Macs. We're all independents. We're all downtown. You can't get any change to come downtown, which is really great traffic. We'd love to have an Applebee's and an Outbacks. These places downtown, 4 o'clock area, 8, 9 restaurants. Draw and get people downtown. They're not going to come downtown, and they're tough to beat. The independents of Minneapolis, the nicest restaurants in Minneapolis have folded. Places like Miko Cucino's are having a tough time. I'm the best Italian restaurant in Minnesota. It's all changing with a change. The change are getting better. We got great benefits, great advertising. We got great purchasing power. So I'm not sure. We independents downtown have a real challenge ahead of us, and hopefully we will spread. I think I forgot to mention Wong's too. And Wong's, of course, has been in business almost as long as Michael's. Wong's opened up 4 months after we did, and so they've been a long time. With that, are there any questions, remarks, comments? I'd be happy to respond.
Charles, I just wanted to say thank you for what you do. I just love Michael's. My whole family does. We were there last night with my daughter for dinner, and I've been going there ever since I came to Rochester on business before I moved here, which was around 1965, was my first visit. I was visiting some guys out at the IBM plant, and I had my boss and my boss's boss with me, and they said, we're going down to Michael's. There was no question about it. We just went directly there, and of course it was a much smaller place at the time, as I recall. But we had a great meal then. I've been going ever since. And I just really want you to know we all appreciate it. It's my home away from home. And I had one question too. I know, talking about the generations of your family, you and your brothers and so forth, and your dad. I understand you have a lot of family members still in the business. I just wonder how many different family members are employed at Michael's today?
Well, first of all, thanks for the nice comments. I should be thanking you and not thanking me, number one. Number two, I always take off Tuesday nights, so if you want to see me, never go in on Tuesday night.
Yeah. And I did say
I have 3 nephews, all in their 50s. from two different brothers, two from Brother Paul and one from Brother Jim. I have a grandnephew who's about 36 who does all of our menu specials at night. Who's about 36, who's Paul's grandson. I have my daughter Lori and my daughter Barb, who helped at the community stand part-time. And I have Mike Pappas' wife Carol, who manages Papa George. I think that's 7 or 8, I don't know, 4 or 5 in there. That was good. You want to comment, I was going to respond to, I can't think what it was now on Pappas. Anyway, that's it.
Charlie, I've never had it clear in my mind the relationship of downtown to, didn't you have something out on the belt line?
Well, no, before Michael's, Michael's, George and I had a place called the Covered Wagon out by the Playmore. 46 and 51. And that's all. Then the Hubble House, of course, all.
It started in what year?
46 out there, and we sold in 51 to start Michael's with Paul. Paul's the Hubble House the same time we opened that in June of 46. Then we got together in 51 downtown.
I just want to say, there are a lot of quarterbacks members sitting in this audience.
I know.
And it's just been a joy every Monday. I've been only, I suppose, 10, 12 years as ongoing. But it's just a super thing. We go in there, nobody gets after us if we aren't showing up. We pay as little as $15 a year for membership. We just about fill that room every Monday. And it's great. That's what you say that it's 56 started. Maybe
Well,
told me 53 way back.
Let's not argue over 3 years.
Half a century. And I was there also last night, so it wasn't just.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you all last
I
night.
know you're gone.
The problem with the quarterbacks, so as I see it, and when they got a decent program, they fill up and they're pretty steady. Can't get any young people downtown to join. You know, they went over to drive there a couple of years or so ago. Got a few that came over. This Kelly kids and the Methodist came over. And I think Hunter came in once and a few other younger athletes. But they're not getting any young growth.
Some of us do have gray hair, some have not. Sorry, Carl.
George, how are you?
Oh, pretty good. I'd like to make a comment. You did a good job of telling the statistics and, I mean, the trends and everything. I had the same problem toward the end, but I started getting local people. I reduced the prices a little bit for breakfast, and that was the best thing I did because the clinic was very ephemeral. I mean, sometimes we'd have a lot of people, and other times they wouldn't. And then the weather affected us because they won't walk, if it rains or snows, they won't walk too much. And another question I'd like to ask, I often wondered, you had 3 brothers, how did you all get along?
That's fine.
Brothers, they didn't always get along.
Well, you know, back in those days, they talked a lot about family members working together. It didn't work often. It got along fine with us. We had made a couple of agreements, and we decided to go ahead. Our wives were not going to be involved in the business. They all worked there for a short time, off and on, but not be involved in anything to do with any business decisions. The other, that we all decided what we're going to do on hours. And it just worked out, the 2 of us, Jim and myself, Jim had 6 kids and I had 4, and worked the worst hours. George, who had no kids at all, worked the best hours for having a family. And Paul in the Hubble House, he had no direct commitment to come to Michael's to do anything, but he did a lot. He actually worked in the kitchen the first 4 or 5 years with me and all of us, and he also did all of our meat purchasing and a lot of everything. And he was in the late night, he got more involved than ever in Michael's. But we never had any quarrel. We all drove the same salary. Never any quarrel. Why did Jim have nights off, and why you have to work days, or blah, blah, and why are you in the dining room, or why are you in the kitchen? It just all fell into place. And never once in all these years did one brother say, I want out, you buy me out, or this or that kind of stuff. Nothing. Never. I don't know if it goes back to our, I shouldn't say our Greek heritage, but we were a close family. We came to Rochester in '33, and almost, we would have been the great cast for the Grapes of Wrath, where we came over. And I think that tied in, particularly my 3 older brothers. all through the 30s, it tied them up very good. I'm younger by 7 years than the oldest, youngest of the three oldest. And then we're all in service together. We had almost 16 years in service between us. I think all these things sort of bound us together. And then, of course, the rest of the business, we just naturally went into it. And I get that question often over with you. How do you guys get along? Well, we got along well.
Is Michael's a family name?
That's my dad's first name. And the night we just met at my mother's house and dad's house, decided to go in business. We couldn't think of a name, and my wife suggested we call it Michael's after my father. So we did. And he died about 15 months later, unfortunately.
Will we use this menu when we come down tonight?
Well, I told someone I shouldn't show this menu. My mother and dad had a lunch counter downtown from 1938 to 1946, and I worked there during school. I walked down from the Kaufman building in downtown high school over and helped work the lunch counter when I was in high school. And I can tell you then, a big, heavy, full meal was 35 cents.
How much did you get paid, I wonder? Nothing?
Chuck, I remember,
Ernie, how are
for
you?
many years, we've had our contractors meeting, monthly meetings at your place,
All right.
and it's always been great. Ray and I've been there a lot. But it was a way of keeping the membership up too. They wouldn't let miss meetings because they missed coming down the Michael for a good meal. It was always on, it's always came out of the funds. And then, remember Kermit Skinner?
Oh, I sure do.
And Kermit was a salesman for a good wholesaler, and Kermit was a great pheasant hunter. And he would go to South Dakota hunt pheasants and then bring them back, and whether they had enough, I don't know, but he also had a bowl on the table, they'd catch a BB and that was prize, but back then, some guys would fix up a pheasant dinner for this bunch. And it was I miss that pheasant dinner in your menu.
Well, we run it as a clip-on for a week or two at a time. It's a pattern, but we have run it, but not on the permanent menu. Again, it's a question of you sell 5 orders a night, and have 10 left over, say for 15 orders, and then tomorrow night you prepare 10, and you run out at 6:30. And it's a tough item, you know. All this stuff you have to cook ahead of time are tough to predict sales. So most of the stuff we cook to order, and it's one of those things.
Do you still have the Michael Rich sandwich?
Well, we sure do. You know that's my favorite sandwich. And the story on that, my brother George died in 1969. He was still alive. I remember I went in with it. He was our chef, really. I saw in the magazine article the sandwich, and it was something which. And I said, God, this sandwich sounds good, George. Why don't we put on, we'll just call it Michael Witch. And we did. And that had to be about 1965. So that's 30, 40, almost 40 years that's been on. That had to be my wife's favorite sandwich, I think, where she's sitting. Michael Witch. Hi, Doctor.
When we came 30 years ago, it didn't take me long to learn how formidable Michael's was to this community. At the clinic, I scheduled a meeting of our division for Monday at noon. And a few of my most treasured consultants said, well, you can have your meeting, but Monday at noon, we're going to Michael's. That's the fashion lunch. So I learned in my first week on the job that I better schedule my professional meetings around your lunches. How long did that last?
Oh, I don't remember. We had various things back then. We had who was I can't think of the MC Lawlers. We had one day we had a men's fashion too. MC Lawlers. We had various women's festivals. We had quite a few on Saturday noons. We had for quite some time. I can't think of the latest story. Not Julie's Festus. Who I understand there's another landmark leaving the Rochester, I understand, with a grapevine. Julie's Festus. That's a little landmark downtown. That store.
Charles, I remember your piano bar.
Yep.
That was a great, fun time to go in there and sit around in there, and you had that beautiful bar. I mean, that was when that whole room where Papa George's or near there was a bar, and the decorations on the walls and everything were just fantastic.
See, when drinking started falling, heavy drinking and big awareness, drinking awareness, all that started going down in the 80s and early 90s. That's when we decided that was too big a bar and too much space devoted just to drinking and night activity. Was providing after 30
It was great while it lasted, though.
Yeah, it was.
Now that he mentioned the piano bar, I miss those piano bars. You know, years ago, everything was downtown. I know when I get off work from the Princess, I used to go to your place and then go to the, what's the name of the place that burned down on 4th Street, where your dad?
Townhouse?
Yeah. I'd go in the townhouse, they had entertainment, and then Webster's, and you could walk around those places. And the Carlton, I still miss the rate. They were artists, and you could have, now there's nothing. And they had, that time they had neon lines, signs. Now it's against the ordinance to have flashing lights. You can't have that anymore. But
I wasn't aware of that.
I found out when I went out of business, I had a flashing sign. It was really a nice sign, and they gave me 5 years to. They told me it had to go down in 5 years. I went out of business before that happened. But, and I miss those, that sort of like Las Vegas. When I was a kid, my dad would drive us around, like in the hot summer nights, we'd go for a ride, and then we'd go for ice cream cone or something, and he'd drive me down Broadway, it was something to look forward to. Even the Taylor had flashing signs, and now the signs are sort of grab.
Oh, Broadway's dead. You're right, George. Howard?
We appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Has the smoking ordinance affected you in any way?
It has, and quite dramatically, because what we had going at Michael's was all of our dining room, we gradually did this from a small area, 1 dining room, 2, 3, 4, all 5 dining rooms were non-smoking, and the lobby was non-smoking, and the bathrooms were non-smoking, and posted that at least. And all rooms, we've expanded over the years. The typical building downtown Rochester is 22 feet, and a load-bearing wall, 22 feet. That's why our rooms are all the way there, the way we've bought the buildings next to us over the years, we've expanded into. And so they all had their separate air conditioning and heating too. Each room is separately ventilated and separately HVAC separate in each room. We have smoking on our bar area only, which is 1,000 square feet out of 18,000. But we serve more food than liquor in the Papa George, so we didn't qualify for the ordinance. And because we have a service bar in the kitchen that takes care of all the dining rooms, so we tried to get an exemption to from the commissioners, because we only serve 13% of our total food sales in Papa George, and it was our only bar. Put doors on the room and allow smoking around the bar. And they turned us down, and that hurt dramatically. And we don't know how much, but it really we're trying to talk about it again the other day, because we had a lot of people coming in from the clinic, and particularly I remember when I had 3 Greeks came in. They wanted to smoke, and they don't have smoking in the dining room. We got smoking around our bar, in our bar area. Okay, call us in a half an hour. They'd go and have their cocktail, have their cigarette, then come in and eat, and then go back to the hotel. We had a lot of that. It's a sign of times, I suppose, but yes, to answer your question, we can't put a wall up on the west side of our bar. The kitchen, those tables behind a wall, and have a wall near the street with a bar and a few tables. And then we might stop serving food in Papa George at night, and we might make some decisions there. If anybody comes downtown with a nice bar, like Minneapolis, and allows smoking, we definitely will make some changes. We won't be able to combat that. That'll really hurt us. But there's no place downtown. Every restaurant was non-smoking, including Sebastian's and the Taylor Grand Grill. Everybody's non-smoking. Lord Essex, you couldn't smoke any place downtown at all, in any restaurant. And we'd all done it voluntarily. And that's why we were so much against it. The problem was the chains, all on the edge of downtown, had bars in the middle of their rooms, like Fridays and Outback and these places. And places like Perkins, and those are the people that were crying and had all the hearings. They couldn't go to those places because you can't have smoking in the same room by just saying the 4-foot aisleway between the two. We know that. We found that out in a hurry. But legally, 75% of people don't smoke, and I certainly don't like the smell of smoke either, but yes, it did hurt. That's a long-winded answer, but, and I was very much against that, only because I figured that was our decision, and we reacted great. We reacted to our public demand. Our last room without smoking was the hutch, and I got to the point where some noons, we'd have 4 tables in there smoking, and we couldn't sell the room anymore. Because there's smoking in this one room. So we just one day we just arbitrarily quit smoking in Hutch too, and that did it. Erica, the library, gallery, Hutch, all non-smoking. And the lobby also, worked we used to allow smoking in the lobby. So we thought we were doing it. We were feeling the pressure of the public demand and accommodating it as a free enterprise businessman. It was our business, and we're so dumb that we couldn't get employees to work in the smoking area. We couldn't get customers to come into the smoking area. We go broke. That's our business. We go broke then. We're that stubborn about it. But it's done, so just forget it. Certainly.
I have a little story about your brother Jimmy. We met out at the airport. Both had flights out, and the plane was delayed for an hour, and we went up to Chanticleer Room and have a cocktail. And Jimmy said, I always had goals. And he said, my first goal was I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 45. He said that didn't work out. And then he said I thought I should retire by the time I was 55. He says, and that didn't work out. He says, I have a new goal now, though. He said, by the time I'm 65, I hope they have enough bus boys so I don't have to bust my own table.
Well,
Charlie, if I remember right, didn't you have a Michael's in Mankato
Oh, yes.
in the 60s?
Yep, in 1961 or so, I think to about that's about 1972 maybe. I think we had 12, 13 years. It was very good to us. The reason why I sold it, my oldest brother died, and Paul and I were going back and forth once a week over there, and we just decided we wanted to tighten up and just do Rochester and Manorville, and sold it. It's not there anymore. Neither are the other 3 good restaurants in that area: the Colony Club, the Century Club, the Holiday House, and St. Peter. And Michael, they're all gone to Mankato. Mankato is not a good restaurant now. I was working there. My nephew has a place up on the campus called Maggie's. He does it quite well.
And where?
Up on the campus, a place called Maggie's. He does quite well.
Well, we were there in the 60s. We were going to college after the war, and Hubert Humphrey's son was in our class, and we would go down there with him, and it was just packed every night.
Yeah, we had good business there. I say that Michael's put a couple of my kids through college, and he probably bought my house for me. So it was good to us. But we decided to pull our ranks in. Someone over here was.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you for having a gluten-free menu.
Well, my nephew's got a list out there that he can, that we can refer to, right?
But my question has to do with the longevity of your staff. There's a guy, a valet parker that's been there since high school. I think his name is Mike. And then you have a busboy that's been there a long time.
Dick is, he's a...
How long?
He's an icon there. Dick started in 1962.
Okay.
He and I have a little thing going. When we get 100 years total between the two of us, it isn't far off. I tell him I want a picture in the paper. Yeah, 100 years at Michael's.
What's his name?
Dick Rogers.
Is he from Chatfield?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Was there a period of time you had a restaurant north of Spring Valley?
No, that was a Pappas family, the Lobster House.
I don't recall.
Yeah, the Lobster. That was the Pappas family from Austin. No,
Yeah,
no
we had a
relation.
place in Austin.
Different family.
Pretty common Greek name. It's Pappas something or other.
You were in lacrosse too, weren't you?
My nephews were.
Oh, I
Was that the cerise?
It was a cerise, and then it became, they had a 15-year, unusual type of lace, and at the end of 15 years, which is about 10 years ago, I guess, I don't know, the one brother, the one partner, Jim Pappas, just wanted to come and join Michael's. The other one wanted to get out of the business. He went in the insurance business, so they left that. There was a Michael's in Worthington too, in my hometown, which was a very successful restaurant. Burned down and got rebuilt again, and a lot of good ratings and remarks. So we had a string of Michael's going to Worthington, Mankato, to Rochester, across, and everybody thought they were all together. We weren't. There were three separate entities, but a pretty common name. One in Minneapolis also. Well, it's been my pleasure, really. I'm flattered to visit with you people today, and I want to thank you. Michael, over the years, you really are the celebrities. Thanks, Tom. Get downtown going.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best. We're working. Barb brought up the Michaels in Rochester, and I have a memory I'm going to have to share with you. When my wife and I got married, I was 23 and she was 20, and she looked like she was about 14. And at that time, she couldn't get served anywhere. And I had an uncle, Jack Hunziker, that ran a real estate company in Mankato called Vedette Rebstock, and I think he probably lived in Michael's in Mankato. And my wife and I went in actually one time to get, that's where I was born, is in Mankato. We went in to get something to eat, and Jack was there and waved us on over, and that was the very first time my wife ever got served in a restaurant, underage, but nobody had the nerve to say